right, today we're going to do a cigar review. I've done a couple of these beyond the CO First Third, but I didn't like the way it turned out in terms of the small talk in between things. Plus, the cigars weren't quite up to the caliber of what I want to really make a cigar review about. Because I think if you have I don't know, I'll probably do some cheap ones too. But I know that the ones I watch of cigarobsession.com with Brian Glenn are the ones that are sort of the risky level of money and investment in a cigar. So you want to know, hey, is it really worth that extra $5-10? Get a whole nother stick for that extra bump. And so we're going to have a beautiful review today. I have not smoked this. This came to me through a very cool coincidence. A good friend of mine, Christy, bought this for me. And the weird thing about it was that she bought it for me on a day that I went to my smoke shop and I looked directly at this stick. This is the one, because it's the only Drew Estate that the whole place has. And I keep trying to get them to get the Herrera Stella. They keep telling me they're going to supply it, and they never do. But this is above that. And this is the Liga Privada, number 9. And I see these on the Cigar Obsession Facebook page a lot. But anyway, I bought an Undercrown instead of this one. And then I was kind of like, well, because this was like $18. And I think the other one's like $11. So I didn't get it, and I was like, okay, well, it's too bad those are a little bit out of my range for what I want to spend on a regular basis. And I got to my friend Christy's house, and she goes, well, she told me she got me a gift. I was like, whoa. She goes, nothing huge, but just come over and take a look. And it was the exact cigar that I wished I had purchased. It's like, talk about coincidental. So the good thing is I've also had this in the humidor for at least a week or so, which I know isn't a lot, but it's not coming straight out of the shop. Now, I haven't been at the shop she got this at, but I'll tell you this much. I believe this is a Toro, probably a 56 gauge, and it is just immaculately put together. It's a Drew Estate. I mean, there's some brands you can just close your eyes and purchase, and the only thing you're going to ever run into is the anomaly of a block, or in case it was stored improperly, maybe it's really dry. I saw a picture the other day of a guy that I think he had a block in his stick, and so he took a skewer from a barbecue, like for a kebab skewer, and he stuffed it into the back of his cigar, and he must have stuffed it about 2 or 3 inches in, and it just split right down the column, which means it's kind of dead. But I will say there's definitely an opportunity to make a tobacco tape out there, something that's smokable, just like, probably very delicate leaves, but it has an adhesive on it, so we can actually repair our cigars for something that happens like that. Probably wouldn't be a giant seller, but you probably have leaf shards all over the factory that you could just scoop up and put some tape on them. All right, so this looks like definitely a double cap. The first cap is really tiny, little hood, and the rest is kind of a massive cap that's on there. So it's probably about almost a centimeter in is the cap, so should do just fine. Of course, I use my V cutter so I don't destroy the integrity of the cigar itself. Again, as soon as you start spending big money on these, the idea for me of cutting off the end of a cigar, you're really just begging for problems. If you had a lot of, I noticed the people that cut with guillotines, they get a lot of complaints, and they'll be constantly pulling things out of their mouth. Not that it doesn't happen with the V cutter, but usually the reason why you have it with the V cutter is that you haven't kind of blown off the tip right after the cut. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a good cut here. Sorry about the bars on my face. Hopefully they lighten up a little bit. I have this thing over my head that this particular time of day, there's really no way for me to get into the sun besides going way out there in the backyard, and I don't have power that goes all the way out there without buying some more stuff. The cut's perfect. The construction looks great so far. Wow, very, very light hint of any smell at all, actually. You just kind of get a really high quality tobacco smell, but it's very faint. So it'll be interesting to see how heavy duty this one is. And because this is such a nice cigar, I'm going to really take some time to get this thing lit, but I'll speed it up. Wow. I got to do that again because I think I tasted a bunch of really specific things here. Wow. That is a great taste. Holy cow. Extremely mild at the very beginning here. First thing I thought I tasted off the first pull was a huge dump of like chocolate taste. And again, not like anything sweet. I'm not talking about chocolate malt or something. May have been the coffee that I'm actually pairing this with. But now I'm just getting, wow. I want to say it's a full body mild. Usually you can't say those two things together, but I think I'm tasting at least 3 different things here. The tobacco is very mild, no pepper whatsoever so far. I hate to be a broken record, but I think there's definitely a leather hint already. It's almost a sweet tobacco. It's almost like a nice, just utterly mild. I mean, a Macaduno seems loud compared to this thing right now, which I know that some people get freaked out of, like, I'm going to spend that kind of money on a cigar. I want transitions. I want a full body. I'll have to say that this mild is the most full body mild I've ever had. It's like 3 tastes coming together, and I'm trying to figure out exactly what they are. But I can guarantee you, halfway through this baby, we're gonna be in a carnival of tastes, most likely. Man, that is just great. And I've never seen a review of this that I know of, so I'm not going off anyone else's information, and I wouldn't know where to really look to find the paragraph about this that's going to make me believe what it says, right? Now, this thing I'm pairing it with are these little tiny double shots from Starbucks Espresso. These are ridiculously expensive, like $2.70 a pop. But what's crazy about it is they have a version that has a silver top on it, which is half the calories, and the full calorie one is all brown. There's absolutely no taste difference that I can make out between the 140 versus the 70. So there's no reason to drink the other 70. Just get the light one. They sell these at 7-Elevens out here. Nice thing is you get a fairly decent chunk of caffeine, and you don't have a bunch of liquid in you. So you can balance this out with like a straight up water, which is nice, right? Now let's pair it together. Man, got a little bit of hay taste there. It's just pleasant. It's like earthy hay. Always the carryover tobacco, although the tobacco is playing a really intense back seat. Of course, I'm only quarter inch into this thing, so can't get terribly excited just yet, but feels good to me. So I'm doing these, and I know that every time I do a cigar review thing that's just 100% dedicated to cigar, we usually have a couple subscribers fall off. It's kind of funny. Not that we're waking up every day crying our eyes out, but it's just interesting to watch anyone who thinks that we're stopping our main show. That's silly. Anyone thinks I'm going to stop Deep Thoughts. Well, that's silly. So whatever they like, they just need to hang on and just ignore the videos that they don't like. It's really weird. But what I'm trying to do is come up with a real-time cigar review. So if this thing takes an hour and 45, then this episode's an hour and 45. I will speed it up from time to time. I tried to put a little clock off here to let you know sort of how far I am into it, but the software is not smart enough that when I speed it up, it doesn't speed up the clock as well, which is stupid. It should just take the SMPTE time code and keep rolling it up. But maybe there's an attribute in there I need to check or something. I could render the whole movie out with the clock in it and then speed up the final product. Maybe that's the way I do it. But I want this to be like a companion when you're smoking whatever you're smoking. You just sit out and chill out with your laptop or your phone or your tablet or whatever and just smoke and have a buddy, a portable buddy, right? And then I want to do is I want to add to this a subject matter that's fun, that's not negative, right? And unfortunately, the main thrust of our show, depending on what your psyche is going to be negative. People are going to freak out to hear things that are crazy. Deep Thoughts, that should be pretty ubiquitous with reality. It's just, the things that we don't talk about, but we think about constantly. And it's an area usually where we actually need a little bit of help with an opinion that's different than our own, right? If nothing more than just to confirm that we believe what we believe. Like if you disagree with me 100% on a deep thoughts, that's fantastic. That just means you're more fortified on what you believe, right? But for the cigar review, I want to keep up the review, right? But I want to dash off to other subjects at the same time, or one subject. Then that way we're kind of like, we have a theme to cigar review. And so I thought what I would experiment with are different themes, and we'll just see what you guys think. Again, this is inside the MK Ultra Radio channel, because we went off and experimented with creating our own channels, and it becomes a logistical nightmare within the publishing software to manage two different accounts, because you're constantly logging in and out of different accounts. And I know what'll happen is I'll render out some 2-hour deep thoughts, and I'll send it off to the Cigar channel, and then I'll be totally pissed off, right? So I'm going to go ahead and leave these inside the inside this MK Ultra Radio channel for now. If the whole thing exploded, I could re-render them out and put them in another channel. But and I know you might be thinking, well, you're not going to get them to explode through this other technique, and that might be right too. So we'll just see. But I'm not satisfied I've got anything to offer you guys right now anyway. So if I felt like I really had it, Brian Glenn puts an amazing amount of effort into a cigar review, and he only films 8 minutes of it. So he'll be into a review he'll be smoking a cigar for 2 hours, but he's only publishing 8 minutes of the 2 hours. For me, I can't do that. My life has got to be used up more than that, right? And I don't have a setup in my backyard like Brian where I can do my business, in the in-between hours or time that I'm smoking, right? So far, just a fantastic, definitely has a hay and tobacco taste. Interesting. It just tastes premium. It tastes good. It's not I just retrohaled a little bit, which really highlighted the hay taste for me, and it just feels good. We'll see how this ash can hang on here. Now, usually with the first part of the ash, because of the burn, the first is a little bit weak, usually, because it depends on if you lit it maybe like I did. I experimented with lighting with matches the other day on a different cigar, and I got a really good light on my first cigar with matches, and I did it again on the second cigar, and it ended up, the flame, because it's so out of control, and it was a tiny bit windy, which is my own fault, it licked, the wrapper, and so I got a little bit of a premature burn on the wrapper, which you're just robbing yourself of that experience if you burn it up in thin air. It'd be like me just torching this with a torch. Well, I didn't get the chance to experience it, so same thing with the bad light. So I wanted to make sure I used one of my lighters that had a lot of control today. So if this is titled properly on YouTube, this will be a real-time cigar review for this cigar. So I'll put the name in there, but it's also going to be a movie review. And the movie I'm going to review, if you are around my age, which is 46 or above, you will have had probably a chance to see this film in its glory days. If you are younger than 45 and you haven't seen this film and you dig this channel to begin with, you're in for a treat. And we mentioned it a lot. And I've actually done deep thoughts where I've actually pulled it in. I think Corporatism is one of the episodes I did where I mentioned this movie quite a bit. But it's a movie that is brilliantly made, brilliantly cast, and very timely for us right now. And the movie's called Rollerball, and it was made in 1975. Let's get some more of this delicious coffee. Let's finish this off. The main actor in it that's recognizable to most people, because he had a career after the movie, is James Caan. And James has a very interesting career, but this might have been the peak of his career in the 70s, in my opinion. Not the peak of his career. But he actually is a guy that said several times that he was offered major movies. He was offered Tootsie, didn't take it because he had to dress like a woman. I think he made the right decision. He was offered Kramer versus Kramer, and didn't take it. Al Pacino killed it, so who knows if he could have done the same, But James was in a prime of his life, and I'm not even sure how old he was when the film was made, but the film, I'm told, is based off Shakespeare's Tempest, and I haven't I glided over Tempest in college, and I can't remember the direct correlations there, so I won't try to make it, but I thought I'd throw that out there in case any of you are aware of that archetype. Still pretty mild, although I feel like something else is creeping up here. I'll let you know if I can distinct it. I'm going to distinct it. How you like that? Making up new words right here. You wonder where words come from? Right here, baby. Yeah, so far, it's actually it tastes very similar to a first third, to be honest, which is fantastic. Okay, so Rollerball. What the hell is this movie about? Why would I ever want to review it? It's set in the future, and I believe, I saw the year the other day, and I can't remember what the hell year was it. It's not too far off from where we are right now. In fact, it's funny when you see movies from the past that are set in the future, and it's behind where you are today. Technically speaking, other than the political and corporate environment of the world, the game could exist today. But we would need another probably 50 years to get to their end game in this movie. And I dig this movie. Now, I saw this movie as a really young kid, and I didn't see it in the theaters because I would have been about 6, so I wouldn't have understood it. But I definitely saw it in my early teens, maybe even preteens, because my dad was a big, fanatic with Betamaxes and, renting movies and owning movies. Actually, not renting, but buying them. And the other one is that the film starts out with there's a random hook. The film starts out with Bach Staccato and Fugen in D minor, and that is just an amazing piece of playing. It was one of the first things I ever taught myself when I started reading sheet music, and I created like a techno version in the 90s, which was funny, which if you ever heard it today, I would turn pink because it's made with a bunch of tinny ass keyboards in the 90s. But that song actually got me a job. Probably one of my first jobs making music in EA, because I made the track and I gave it to all of my buddies at Electronic Arts where we're working. And when we came up short on some music, they're like, "We're listening to your stuff anyway, so you make the music." I'm like, "Oh, okay, sure." I like terrifying moments in life. It was that movie that taught me about Toccata and Fugen. Now, any other place that would have shown it to me or played that to me, I would have had the same experience. But anyway, this movie is about a game called Rollerball, as you might imagine. And it's not just about a game, but it's about the effect of the game on society. And it's very poetic to what games are meant to be today, right? So sports are invested in more than anything else in this country because it distracts people away from life. And I saw a real interesting map the other day, which was all 50 states of America, the top paying corporate position in each state. And it was like, it could be like the Koch brothers or something like that. The top paying salaries of most people was a coach, a professional coach of a professional team somewhere. It could be baseball, it could be basketball, football, anything. But that should give you an interesting overview of what money is spent on things that are, one, profitable, but two, important. And so something's crawling up there. Not quite sure what it is. Almost like a sour hay taste, which is kind of nice. Like a savory cigar here. But Rollerball actually exposes the formula for what it is. And again, because we don't study history anymore, our idea of history is to learn a few of the presidents, learn a few of the official stories about the presidents of this world. But if you study Titus Flavius, he's the one that really pioneered the Colosseum and its distraction mechanism in the world in terms of keeping the citizens to not focus on you. Now, people way before him were doing other things, but this was institutionalized distractions, which is phenomenal, right? So... And the irony is that the Colosseums are round, and so is the rollerball rink, right? So the rollerball rink is round, and rollerball looks like roller derby, except it's way in the future. It has motorcycles that fit on the track, so it's a much bigger track. The way the game is played is that there's this gun barrel that's way up against the upper edge because the whole thing is conical, like this, like a bathtub, like a coned out bathtub, like a roller derby rink, but probably 2 to 3 times as big as the ones that, these tough chicks roll around and pound each other with. But there's a gun barrel, looks like a gun with a scope on the top too, like a little sight on the top, and it blasts this ball. It's 30 pounds of steel. And they built the prop. That's what's crazy. They built this thing, so you get to see it actually blast out of the barrel. There's no, computer-generated anything. And because it's a movie, that built the whole thing out of wood, but it's gorgeous. I mean, it looks just as tight as ever. And I thought my buddy Sid Mead actually designed the wording and the bikes and everything, but it wasn't Sid at all. It was somebody else. But it's so beautifully designed. It could be a Sid Mead project, which is funny. So I should look up who actually did the designs on this. But the ball rolls around the outer edge, and you have to wait for the ball to actually fall into the rink. Otherwise, it's going too fast to pick up. And I don't know if it's the physics of it makes any sense, but you do see the actors, with this big leather glove, like a catcher's mitt, but it's been custom designed to lay down on this thing while they're skating with skating with regular wheeled skates, like the old kind, and like roller skates. And they grab this thing up, and then they have to pull it out of their mitt, and they have to keep it in sight at all times, kind of like a dribbling rule, right? At that point, they have to hand it off to essentially the quarterback, who's usually hanging on to a motorcycle with tail, which has a little kind of a U-shaped handle on the back. So the guy's hanging onto that. They're on roller skates, so the whole thing's going forward. He gets the ball, and he's got to hold it up in the air. And they go around the track. And they never really established if you have to go around the track a certain amount of times. I think you do. But there's a goal. It's a magnetic cone thing you have to throw it into, so like an ice cream cone down the center, and it sucks the ball and holds it in place. It's really brilliant. And what happens is, obviously, the other team tries to block their hole with all these cool formations and their roller skates. It's very manly. It's very cool. It's very gritty. They have leather gloves with these incredible spikes built into the gloves because they can fucking punch and kill each other. It's wicked shit, and it's great. Let's see here. Oh, man, that's the Drew Estate taste right there. Holy cow. Hint of butter all of a sudden. It's really late for butter. And, again, my theory is that when these things are stored, no matter how they're stored, the tip is going to be absorbing all the flavor from the humidor that it's stored in. And typically they're stored with their cousins, so they're all the same blend. But I think that, if this were to sit in that humidor at the smoke shop for, say, a couple months, the end typically gets some sort of ambient infusion with what's going on in the room, depending on what's next to it or whatever. And so you have to burn away about a half an inch, in my opinion, to get down to what the blender was doing with the particular cigar you have. The other thing is I think that the tip of any cigar, regardless of how hydrated it is a little dehydrated. And so you get more of a ashier sort of combination of flavor depending on how long it's been sitting in there. So anyway, I think I've ashed off about a quarter inch off the end of this. We're about maybe an inch and a quarter in, and we're starting to get the first beautiful flavors coming through on this thing. Yeah. I don't know if that's butter or not butter, but it's a smooth thing on top of the tobacco flavor, on top of the leather flavor, right? So far, construction's perfect, right? I had a small anomaly when I lit it, which I believe is this tiny little hump right here where I missed it. So we'll just keep going here. So they get this ball. They got to keep it in the air at all times, and it's almost anything goes. It like hockey. If you hurt someone in the game, you get it sent into the penalty box for 3 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. It could be a motorcycle guy gets put into the penalty box for running someone over. It could be someone swooping down and hitting someone. But the movie starts, and I'm giving you premise right now. I'm not giving you any story. But the movie starts with the premise that the world has devolved into corporations. There's no more states. There's no more national borders. There's no more countries. It's just corporations. And the location where we are in the world, I guess it's Houston, Texas. But it's the Houston Energy Company. And they have got a team. Their team is an orange dot. And Jonathan E., which I don't remember what the E stands for. That's James Caan's character. He is the number one rollerballer in the world. And because he's the number one rollerballer in this new future dystopia, right? It's a very socialistic, fascist world. They ask him to stop playing. They tell him, we're going to retire you now. So he finishes the first game. And this is sort of a review and a backup, because if I tell you to go see a 1975 film, you may not go and see it because it's so old. But if I tell you a little bit of the story and you're like, that sounds good, right? And I'm going to give you the bumper spoiler at the end, so I'll let you know when that's coming. It's one of these things, if somebody said, hey, have you ever seen Star Wars? And you go, no. And they go, well, it has this big Death Star and they blow it up at the end. It's not going to ruin the movie for you at all. And that's exactly what's going to happen with this film. Regardless if I tell you the ending, it won't change anything. If anything, it's like me telling you how to go have an orgasm and you're like, oh, well, you told me what it was, so I don't need to do it. It's like, you know what I'm saying. It's quite the opposite. This movie is an orgasm for the mind, let me tell you. And it doesn't treat you like you're stupid. That's the beautiful thing. The dialogue is intelligent. It's deep. And the amount of foresight that these guys had in 75, remember, that's when it was released. So someone wrote the script years before. And it's this French director who's just recently passed away. He just did a masterful job, I should know everybody's name. I apologize. Definitely getting a chocolate, for sure. It's mixing with the tobacco, which is really taking an edge off. It's just really solid. Make sure I give this a little tap, see if it falls off here. Nope, it's starting to hang on. Good. I can see through the ash is the only reason why I try to tap it. So if I rotate and I start to see like holes in it, I realize, okay, this thing's probably about to fall off on me. I'll just keep it over my edge of my body here. But Jonathan E. finishes up a game against Madrid at the very beginning of the film, and you get to see the whole format of the game. They literally started off by lighting the stadium at the beginning, the arena, and so you don't, no fans are in the room yet, and so all the officials are filing on. The referees are doing their thing. They're tuning up the cameras, and then the people come in and they do it. And the people, they're not in some fascist, roby, 1984. Apple commercial thing. They wear normal clothes. It's just like the 70s, a lot of T-shirts and stuff, and obviously they have a lot of really cool faux memorabilia and team worship on their clothes, which looks perfect. But they win, and so then they file into this locker room, and the big boy, whose name escapes me, but he's ultra famous, old guy. He comes in there, and he's the owner of he's the CEO of the Houston Power Corporation. And you get the sense that this guy in their organization of life, he really answers to the board of directors and doesn't have a lot of decision-making process of his own, which is fine. But he comes in and he celebrates the team, says they did a great job, and then at the end he says, there's two things he says. One, he tells Jonathan to come see him the next day. That's really the last thing he says before he leaves. Oh my gosh, that is the Drew Estate awesome blend. All I need to tell you is it tastes amazing right there. We're at like maximum body here. Love it. But the other thing is that he reveals a little bit of the anatomy of the world on the executive corporate level. And he says that basically you learn that the top two positions in the world are being an executive that makes decisions, and you're revered because you have the power to make executive decisions, which I guess in the pyramidal, capstone pyramid methodology, it's the board of directors, which are hidden from you, always make the decisions, and you merely get the privilege of carrying them out. So that's one group. But they make more money, they have more stuff than anyone. But the next comparable group over is your alpha male rollerballer that is glorified by sheer deed, sheer physical deed in the ring. So he tells one of the sidekicks of Jonathan E., whose name goes Moon Pie is his name. This is a little slang name. He tells him, rollerball or executives have all this power, but do you know what they dream of? They dream of being rollerballers. They dream of bashing in faces and being strong and being amazing like you. And so he just basically puts together this mutual relationship that the executive layer has for the rollerballer layer. And rollerballers are typically not as smart, so they don't necessarily want to be executives, but we get into this. with the Jonathan E. character. So the next morning, he visits the old man in this palatial office, and the architecture that they have somehow located to film this film is fantastic. Like the most futuristic buildings in America and in Europe in 1975. And they may have gone everywhere on the planet, I don't know, but you don't get a sense that you're in 1975 ever. And it's real architecture. It's really like the most brilliant minds of the time, and they just filmed on location, right? The only thing that's remotely an indicator of the time is a little bit of the apparel is sort of like your more futuristic 70s look. They kind of have this bullfighter's suit that they wear. It's just kind of cool. But anyway, he goes to see the old man. He sits down with him. And the old man says, well, you've had a fantastic career. And the decision has been made that we want to retire you. And we're going to give you a huge blowout. You're going to have your own TV special. And no other rollerballer in life has ever had that. When they retired, they just faded away. And Jonathan's really confused because he's like, I'm at the top of my game. Houston's one of the best teams in the world. We're not even at the finals yet. So they're actually in the playoffs. I mean, they're just trying to get to the finals. And they're talking about pulling out the number one team member. And he's just, I can't let the team down. The team wants to win. And he's like, why would you guys want me to quit? And this is where it kicks off the story. And the story is, again, it's very interesting because they don't do this archetype today. But, well, they do and they don't. Wow, it's just beautiful. The old man says to him, look, this game was invented because we were trying to make sure that we fortified not only the distraction of the game from the people focusing on what's going on in the world, but to reinforce futility of individuality, that it's all team-based. And because you're so damn good that even though you do behave in a team player way, you're making people want to be an individual, and that's why you have to go out of it. And he goes, plus it's a stupid game anyway. It's a savage game. Look what happens when people get hurt and stuff. Doesn't convince Jonathan to quit. And he's just totally confused. And Jonathan has a personal situation going on at home. Oh my gosh. Absolute tobacco, leather, and chocolate all together in one. Like, chocolate's kind of fading away, but the leather just nailed me on a retro hill. It was like taking a piece of leather and just rubbing against the inside of my nose. Beautiful. He had a wife. Jonathan had a wife, and the backstory in this room that's revealed is that an executive wanted his wife. And so, in Jonathan's eyes, his wife was captured by an executive who wanted to sleep with the rollerballer's wife. And the truth of the matter is, the old man reveals, is he goes, well, as I understood, your wife wanted to leave. And it really was that she wanted to start a family, she wanted to settle down, and he was in the prime of his rollerballer world, so he was never, doing anything other than training and playing, which will be confirmed later on. And then since then, he's been dealing with these sort of like corporate appointed, you guess you could call them like call girls, if you will, but they live with him. So they basically send him a woman, and that she lives with him, and when he gets home that night, disturbed that they've told him he's going to quit, he finds that his old coach is in his training room, and the whole house is like this mix between sort of like rustic, futuristic world, like almost like a 1960s sort of ranch home design, with sort of a kind of a Japanese-looking architecture with the sliding screen doors and stuff between rooms. And so he comes in the room and he finds out that his girlfriend, who's been with him for 6 months, is there, and she really loves him, you can tell. And she's just been given notice that morning that she's going to be replaced. And she's pissed, but she also knows how to behave because of this futuristic world where women don't have rights. Women are just machines in this futuristic world. They're literally pleasure bots. You're sent. You must do what you're told. It's a very weird subtext of that thing. It took me several years to figure out that it was like, oh, wow. This is sort of like women are just objects in this futuristic world. Oh, my gosh, that's fantastic. That is Drew Estate to the nines. Ha! And it's the number 9. Love it. So she gets a little angry at him and says, hey, did you know about this? And he's like, yeah, I sort of heard about it. And he's not attached to her because he's still in love with his wife, who's gone. So he goes into his his training room, and his I forgot the gentleman's name who plays his trainer, but he's a real famous guy. He's kind of a Sidney Poitier kind of guy, but it's not that guy. But they have this this little warm up session where they get to meet each other, and then he starts trying to tell his coach, his old trainer. He's like, what do you know about corporate decisions? And he's like, why? Why would you want to know? He goes, I don't know. The executives do it. He's like, well, they're asking me to quit. And the old man, who grew up in the previous, more tumultuous stage of the corporate wars and what have you, he's definitely not inclined to fight back, because it's just, when you're raised into this sort of this serfdom, this sort of docile opinion of reality, you don't typically manifest your courage later in life. Something has to happen to you when you're young, because Jonathan Yee was essentially born, trained into this game, and he's dominated. He is the individual gene combination that is nearly missing from this universe. And that's the whole theme of this film, is that Jonathan became an individual alpha male character that sees his own power, feels his own power, and is not used to not getting what he wants. And this is going to be one of the first times in his life, aside from his wife being taken away from him, which still disturbs him to this day, but you're taking his bread and butter, right? The wife was a second priority to the game, but now the first priority is being messed with. And the old man doesn't really have a lot for him, but they chill out all night long. The wife comes in, or whatever, this girlfriend comes in, and they just chill out, and she knows that she's gone in the morning, essentially, right? And he gets this new girl. And so you have, I'm just trying to think of how to push through it without going scene to scene for you guys. What ends up happening is that he is brought into a sound stage, and they're trying to put together his special. And so you have a guy in a sound booth, and they have Jonathan out front in this kind of really cool, almost talk show set, but it's just he and his girlfriend at the time. No one's asking him any questions out there. And they prepared a bunch of questions for him, and it's just him he's supposed to sit down in a chair to answer a bunch of questions, the feedback to these questions, and of course they'll roll some other beef footage in front of it, and he will be answering questions about what it was like to be a rollerball in his retirement. And he finally realizes, he's like, you know what? Screw this, man. I'm not going to do this. He gives his girlfriend, who's like this really beautiful blonde-haired girl, he offers her a little pill, and she takes it, and she starts feeling really weird really quickly. And she's like, what did you give me? And James Caan, the cool thing about this guy at the time, and he's done all kinds of crazy movies in this last 2 decades. I mean, he's been on fire for probably the last 2 decades easily, right? A little bit of a lull in his career in the 80s, I think, and then he's been back on top forever. He's taking good care of himself, so that helps. But he is a cool cat. He's a cool guy in this film. He's just really mild-mannered, but boy, he's like what I would consider to be the one of the ultimate definitions of a man. Sort of your Clint Eastwood kind of character, where it's like, I'm calm, I'm cool, I'm John Wayne. I don't get really excited about anything, but man, when it comes time to doing things like a man needs to do, he's gonna do it. Get that ash looking good here. So he gives her this pill, and she starts like flipping out, and he says, he looking at it. I just caught this recently after rewatching it recently, and he talks to her, and he's like, why would you just take a pill from a stranger? Don't you think you're just a little too trusting of the system? And it's a subtextual theme of like, is this what you are? You're just like a condom in life, just what everyone puts in you, you just take it and you mold around it, How's that for an analogy? I always like to say that full body's just banging. I mean, just tell you, it's just consistent as hell. I think I got a nut flavor at that moment. My coffee's definitely long gone out of my palate right now. But it's like the analogy I think he was giving is very similar, that if you frame it in the right way, right? I just framed it as a condom. If you're a condom in life, anybody can put anything in you and you'll just form around it. You're just docile and complicit. And we don't want to be that way. But we don't want to just reject society because, we're being jerks. We always have to rebel, right? Everyone has a child seen this one happen 100 times, right? Oh my God. But the one thing I always try to tell people is when they eat like genetically modified food, sugar substitutes, we're not a big fan of fluoride in this thing. If I said, okay, that's a poison, you shouldn't ingest it. And then people go, you're not going to tell me what to do. I dated someone who just couldn't handle anything different. You could say, like, all of her friends are dying of cancer. And I was like, hey, well, check their diet. Make sure they're not eating this. Make sure you don't eat it because you don't want to die of cancer, right? Yeah, sure. Well, don't tell me what to do. Oh, you badass. Go ahead and die of cancer. Be my guest, right? But if I said, here's some Drano. Drink this. All of a sudden, the envelope between eating a poison and its effect on you is so closed, right? It's so immediate. You know you're going to feel immediate pain. You're going to immediately die, most likely. And so you don't do it. But if I took the Drano experience and I said, okay, Drano tastes great. I put a sweetener in there to make a poison taste great. And now I'm going to take that 5-minute death of yours and I'm going to stretch it out over 20 years. And it's going to kill you in 20 years as if, same effect of the Drano. It's going to slowly eat your esophagus away, slowly eat your body away. But it tastes delicious. And when you're depressed from home and work and whatever, you're going to come home and drink this delicious drink called Drano. As long as you pull it out 20 years. I found out when I worked in pharma, this is the way they work. It's the way the FDA works, too, because everybody retires within 20 years of getting the job at the FDA, so everyone's out of the legal envelope of being held responsible for greenlighting negative things into society as our food supply, right? We just had salmon. Genetically modified salmon has now been pushed into the, it's okay. At no point have we tested genetically modified anything for 20 years. Well, 20 years is usually the state of any slow toxin in your system creating cancer, right? But if I say it's Drano, you don't do it. But if I say it's GMO foods, whatever. If I say it's aspartame, whatever. Right? It's weird. So anyway, he was giving her this compressed theme of the same idea of like, you can't just take anything anyone gives you. You can't just live in this world in some fascist thing where you're just literally yes sir, no sir, yes sir, no sir. You can't do it. You won't control your own life, and then there's no point for you to be alive because all you're doing is taking orders. At least, it's okay to take orders and get a paycheck and then come home and do something interesting. But I always suggest put your own stink on it in a better way, right? Make something better. Beautiful. Wow. Tobacco, hay. Still think I get a little bit of the chocolate. It's like it's the baker's chocolate. It's a hint of cocoa, right? I think leather's in there hardcore. No more nut. I may have hallucinated the nut flavor. I'm not sure. I'm new at this. We'll figure this out. So he refuses to help make this special. And then he goes off and he tries to buy some books on executive decisions. And this is where it gets really interesting and really timely for us, right? Now, if you listen to the first part of the film, oh my God, first part of the film, you will just hear a bunch of stuff that you think, that's just interesting history of this futuristic world. It's sort of the foundation of this story. And you won't apply it to our world. But this is 1975. There's barely a computer in existence that a human being can use that's not connected to a giant mainframe, right? And even the mainframes are really basic stuff, right? So he goes and orders these books, and they don't show up at his house because he gets this notice in the mail, which is all off camera, all back history. But he goes to this library, and he talks to this woman, and he says, I ordered these books, and I got this piece of paper saying I had to come down here to get them. And she goes, oh, that's weird because we don't really have any books here. We've got the transcribed versions from the Houston Corporation. So you can have those, but you can't get the books that you're looking for. They're no longer available. What's that mean? Well, it means the truth has been destroyed, and it's been paraphrased by the corporation to sanitize it for whatever perception they want you to have. This hasn't happened in our world yet, but you can pretty much guarantee. I mean, it has happened, right? You know, the history books are all wrong and romanticized. A lot of the science we have is pop science and crap. So kids are taught all kinds of ridiculous stuff. We have these causes in the world that are not founded on any science. I won't even get into that, but we know that the corporations that have the agendas also own the publishing companies that make most of the books that Americans have to read. And consequently, a lot of the college book companies are wholly owned by European corporations and banking cartels over there. It's just the truth. You just got to keep looking up, who owns who, and it ends up over there. It's interesting. So he basically says, so this isn't really a library, and you're not really a librarian, and I'm not really going to get these books. She's like, yeah, I'm sorry. And so, he goes off to his aired special, and it's just this weird special that's all about him, and he's not participating in it because he wouldn't participate in it, but they went ahead and aired the special that he's going to retire. And they tell him, don't show up to any more games. And he says, well, I'm going to show up to this game. And the next game is Tokyo, and Tokyo's badass. But this was, this was made, I guess, 30 years after World War II. And just for those kids who are too young to remember, when you grew up in the 70s, racism and slang was just the way we dealt with our differences. And there's obviously a version of that and a slice of that that's hideous and needs to die. And then there were comedians like Richard Pryor who offered us a mechanism to laugh off our differences, right? Because regardless if you're black or white or whatever, or different, what race, Asian, we have cultural differences that are frustrating to experience sometimes. And then we just have human things that are hard to experience between the two of us, and we blame it on the race half the time. And, there are genetic strands that behave a certain way, and there's, if someone comes in from China, for instance, here in America, and they're fresh off the boat, and there's, say, a line at Starbucks, it's not uncommon to see an Asian person literally push their way at the front of the line. There's like 30 people in line. They'll just push their way in line. And they don't know in their mind that that's not right, because where they are, it's survival of the fittest. They must do that or they won't get anything that they want in line. It's rare, but I've seen it done several times. And the bigger the line, the bigger the trough of people going up to a service, the more these folks do that, because that's the trigger in their mind to say, this is what I have to do to get there. Not knowing that if they just stand in line, they will orderly get processed, right? So it's just a difference. It's a difference in culture. Frustrates the hell out of some of us. But we just have to say it's not the individual's personal fault. It's just the way that they were brought up in it, right? But what was going on in this particular film was that Americans were the ones that had the problem. And it was that they were underestimating the Japs. They were underestimating that they're small little people, which Kyle and I always talk about how the Asian people here, man, they're just as big as us. They're was it Chow Yun Fat or whatever? They're bigger than we are. They're as big as. It's really funny. So I know there's smaller cultures out there, but anyway, they do this standard thing. Oh, the butter's back too. Oh my God. Second third of this is where you knew the bomb was going to be anyway, and it's there. It's this A plus 95 plus second transition here. But they don't pay attention to some specific training that the corporation actually hired this Japanese guy to come in to teach some judo and hapkido techniques and karate, and he's like, this is all going to be used against you. You need to pay attention. And this Moon Pie guy, who's brilliantly played by this character, who's a very famous 70s actor. He was actually in the that Burt Reynolds football film, and it escapes me at the moment. He does a great job being the jerk who's all into, they're about this tall, don't worry about this, we're just going to punch them in the chin, and it's going to knock out their ganglia, and they'll be gone. Well, they go to the game, and they win that game. But this Moon Pie guy gets taken the fuck out. And it's this poetic thing that happens. But our Jonathan E. character has to actually fly to it privately. No, actually, he was going to fly to the game privately, sorry. And there's this idea that these helicopters that they fly, which are sort of the futuristic 60s, 70s helicopters, and they put this jet's engine on top of it to make it sound like, okay, this helicopter goes a hell of a lot faster than the helicopters of today, right? He starts to fear they're going to kill him. He's also tired of this blonde. And he says, when I come back, I don't want you to be here. And in fact, he has this amazing moment where he, it's pretty intense, but he takes the chick, and she's she's just this bimbo, right? She's not like a, gum popping bimbo, but she's definitely just of the future. She's just this useless person to him because he has no respect for her whatsoever. And she's sort of resisting his implication that you got to go. I don't like you. I'd rather be alone than be with you. And she starts to kind of, resist and starts trying to quote the executive law to him, on some level, like, you better do what you're told and stuff. And she's trying to reinforce. Obviously, they've told her to try and get him to stop doing the game. But he pins her down on the game. He's got all of his stuff packed to go off to his game, but he has one of the gloves with those spikes on it. And he pushes her down on the bed. And he takes a glove and he just pushes it against her cheek and cuts her cheek. And he says, "Don't you ever threaten me. I'm fucking Jonathan E. Don't you threaten me. You're nobody. And if you want to be nobody, you go off and be nobody. But I'm Jonathan E. Fuck you." And it's just like, it's an awesome scene, right? And a brutality to women is not the game I'm trying to support here. It's individuality, right? Could have been a dude. Anyway, he actually tells his servant, he's like, "Look, I don't want to fly on this my private helicopter. I'm going to ride with the team. That way they can't take the whole team out and kill him." So he gets to Tokyo and they play that game. And sure enough, everything they were warned against happens in bulk. And they actually, what's interesting is they don't just go out and kill Moon Pie. Moon Pie does this swooping technique where he sits on the rails way at the top of the game, and as the ball is being pushed around, he waits for the opponent team with the ball to come around, and he swoops down and does this kick in the face technique, and he totally wipes somebody off the map, right? It's insinuated they die, but they don't really die. They're just getting knocked out for that particular game. But he knocks a guy completely out. And the other thing is that he does this other swoop where if a person's sort of hunched over, he'll swoop down and punch him in the face. So it's almost like beating up a drunk guy. So the guy's already disoriented and messed up, and he puts the finishing blow on him, right? So they see that, and the Tokyo team is an honorable team, which is perfectly congruent with the Japanese culture. And I forget what their corporate symbol is. I mean, they're the red dot, but I forgot what their energy or what their product is. But they end up pinning Moon Pie down, and they fucking yank his helmet off, and they just go tap around the back of his skull, and he's fucking gone. He's in a coma. And Jonathan has to actually do that. They want him to pull the plug on his buddy, and he won't do it. His buddy's perfect physically looking in this sort of like a glass lung thing. And this doctor's like, you got to sign here. You got to sign here. You got to turn your buddy off. And he's like, "No, why don't you bring him home? Bring him home to America." And they never really follow up on what happens with the guy, but he won't pull the plug on his buddy, which is kind of weird because I think most of us would want the plug to be pulled. Maybe not on the first day, but he's brain dead, basically, is what the game is all about. So then Jonathan goes off. This gets interesting here. He goes off to figure out who makes executive decisions. And he finds, I think it's Switzerland is what they say. He's up at this new building. And Switzerland is where all books have been digitized and sent to. So there's no more physical books in the world. You have to go to Switzerland to read the digital rasterized versions. And he walks into this scientific building. And this old white actor, and he's a British guy, and I can't remember his name either, but he was probably within the last 5 to 10 years of his life in real life. He's this endearing old man. You could just tell he's like this sophisticated scientist who's just seen it all, and he's trying to get Jonathan what he wants because he's also a fan of Rollerball, and he's a fan of Jonathan E., like everybody in the world, which is, again, the root of the problem. And he's like, "Okay, I'm going to take you to our main computer so you can ask the question that you want to answer, which is who makes executive decisions," right? Well, on the way to this computer in the hallway, and this is just loosely dropped in the film. This is 1975, okay? And remember, we think that the people who run the world, they think out really far. They've got 100-year plans at a minimum before they're comfortable with going to bed at night. We don't know that for a fact, but it just seems like that. But the old man says, this morning we lost the 1200s, the 12th century, excuse me. And he's kind of like Jonathan's not quite following that because Jonathan's characters play beautifully dumb to technology. He's like, oh, okay. And he's like, well, it'll turn up around here somewhere. But all of the knowledge of the 12th century was lost in the week preceding Jonathan's visit. And that's the risk of putting all of our information into computers of any kind and storing them there as the only physical copy, because it's just magnetic, charges of positive, negative inside of some hard drive, memory chip, whatever. An EMP blast would pretty much wipe it all out. And so you have to have printed copies of everything, otherwise you lose it. And if you think about it, how many of you have all these incredible digital photos on your computer but not a single printed photograph? You lose a hard drive and you lose your child's entire history, right? And you maybe think, well, Facebook has it, right? Maybe Facebook does. Facebook doesn't have their printable copies that are high definition. They have high def, but it ain't high def enough to fit in a book without pixelation, right? And Facebook could go out of business. Facebook could get hacked, and Facebook could start charging you $100 a day for your content. And what choice would you have but to pay it? So he gets in and he starts talking to this computer. And this computer is it's a beautiful, beautiful, brilliant. I know I've been in computers my whole freaking life. This is the most brilliant future prediction of what a computer would look like. And it's essentially this aquarium tank with these this kind of outer casing with these concentric holes that are all over this outer casing. And they just run bubbles up the water. And they say inside that is all of the programming and processing that needs to be. And it's all water cooled in there. But you don't see any technology in there. There's no microchips or anything. And the funny thing is, as they're walking into this area, they start showing all the old drum disc recording mechanisms, all the most state-of-the-art, reel-to-reel stuff. It's everywhere in this room, which if you ever watched the original Tron in 1982, which was supposed to be in 1982, which makes sense for that film, they have all the same gear, right? So he starts asking the question, and he starts getting this sort of rhetorical, self-defining answer, which is executives make executive decisions. And he's like, yeah, but who are they? And as the more he tries to pinch or punch down into the computer to give him names of places, who makes these decisions? Where do I go to, petition them trying to make me quit? The computer starts overloading. And the old man starts getting pissed at the computer. He's like, just give Jonathan the answer. I'm telling you, you have complete authorization to give Jonathan the answer he's looking for. And the computer has been programmed in such a way that it will never reveal its masters. It's missed on everyone when you see this film. And we always talk about the name that they gave themselves, which if you're a truther, you get persecuted for this word, is Illuminati. Well, and was it 1646? There's a book written by the elite of the world, the ruling class, and they called it the Illuminati. They did it. We didn't do it. They did it. So we're using their word to describe them, but now it's like you can't talk about that because you sound like a nutbag. But essentially, this computer was brilliantly designed to never reveal the capstone of the pyramid. And it's just phenomenal, right? So Jonathan starts to try to strike a deal because he realizes he hasn't quite figured out how he's going to avoid being forced out of the game. They're either going to kill him, he thinks, or he's going to win somehow. But there's no sign of how he could possibly win. So he tells his energy folks, he says, look, I want to see my wife again, the one you took away from me. He's like, man, that's going to be rough. But okay, we'll see what we can do. And he goes off to this beautiful, I don't know, it's like some upstate New York forest or something, and some other palatial pad. It may be the pad that he actually lives in. I guess it is the place he lives in, but they take the scene out into this forest where they're riding horses together, and this gorgeous woman shows up, who's his wife, and I forget her name. But she shows up, and they have this very lucid, beautiful conversation. And it allows him to put to bed this idea that she was taken away from him, because she tells him, look, I put the request in to leave. This thing is unbelievable right now. It's not stopped. The whole central transition has been utterly perfect. So he gets to put to bed this kind of regret or this anger that he thought his wife was taken from him, right? Okay, so that's good. And the executives made good on their deal. And I'm leaving out a lot of interesting scenes which don't need to be talked about, but he keeps trying to drill down as to who is doing this. So he has a few private sessions with people at the party where they did his tribute. He actually turned up the stereo really loud in this study at this beautiful mansion. It's all like this wood room and stuff. He brings his manager in there, and he's like, "Tell me," because his manager at the very beginning says, "Go find me some answers as to who would be doing this." And later on, when he has a special, he pulls his manager and blows out the room with noise, and they put their mouths right by their ears, and they start having this conversation. And the old man's like, the trainer guy, he's like, I don't know who's doing this. No one will say who's actually making the big decision, but it's not the guy. It's not the head of the Houston Corporation. He's being told to do this, so this is big. He goes, your removal from this game is coming down from on high, the highest level of whoever runs this planet. Sort of the gist of what you get. Then he talks to one of the assistant coaches, or actually probably the coach of the team, at a future point, and he pulls him aside, and he's like, they want me to leave the game. And this coach just looks at him and says, "Why can't you just do what you're told?" Another yes man, right? You get enough yes men in the game of life, and this is what we have with our politicians and our bankers and stuff. Give them money and status, and you can get all this loyalty out of them, even if they're spiting their own kind, right? So it's very, very pronounced in this movie. This is 1975, guys. I mean, this movie is so ahead of its time, where corporations take over the world, where information and history is all categorized and paraphrased down to be sanitized for our reading. Very interesting, right? Again, this is not just some basic film. This is mega important for us to kind of see what might be just a prophecy for our future. But the solution is also a prophecy. So up to this point, the very first game that you see is the game against Madrid. It has the standard rule set. When it goes to Tokyo, they have no substitutions, meaning when someone gets knocked out of the game due to injury, you can't put another team member in, like your second string quarterback, right? And so at the beginning of that Tokyo game, they say, well, this is just a gimmick to increase ratings, to get people to watch the game more intensely. And I'm sure that was definitely part of the truth, but part of it was to see if they could squeeze out Jonathan E. And because he's so good, he made it through. Well, the finals comes down to Houston against New York. And again, I forgot what New York's thing was, what their product was. But on the final game, they say, look, there are no rules. I mean, the rules are no substitutions, but you can do anything you want to the other person within the means of the game. Like you can't bring in a sword, but you can beat the shit out of somebody with these spiked gloves. You can run over somebody with a motorcycle. And so there's this, he gets to the end of his rope where he cannot figure out who's actually pushing this on him. He knows it's an impending doom. So he's like, well, the first thing you think is, and I think maybe even the first thing that he thinks, because the finale, I think, is a surprise on everybody's level, which is he goes into that game against New York. So you have two American teams against each other, and they always play the corporate anthem, which is pretty interesting. And so everyone kind of psychs each other out by staring at each other. The two teams are put side by side, and so they have to look literally left and right to look at each other. And with the Tokyo stare down is amazing, because these Tokyo guys, I don't know who cast this thing, but they have found in 1975 the most brutal-looking, badass Tokyo Japanese guys I've ever seen in any film ever. I mean, I have to say, I don't think I've ever seen more muscle-bound Japanese guys in my life in any film than Rollerball. It's cool. But with New York, you just got some badass New York gangster guys and our Houston gangster guys, and the game starts. And what's beautiful about the finale of this film, so if you don't want to hear the finale of the film, again, it won't ruin it for you by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, if I tell you what this means on a story level, it might actually augment your emotions at the end of the film as opposed to blowing it for you, right? But they play this game and everybody's knocked out because Moon Pie's already gone. The rest of the team that's left, we don't have an emotional bond to them. You have a bond that they're your team, but you don't have this this is Jonathan E's best friend called Moon Pie, right? Moon Pie's in some coma somewhere. It comes down to 2 against 1. Jonathan is the last guy in the Houston team to be alive, and he suffered some pretty good blows. I think his shirt's even screwed up. He's bleeding down his face a little bit. And these 2 guys, there's a skater and a biker. And there's a bike that's actually crashed in front of the goal, in front of the Houston goal, that is on fire. And there's people that have been burned up and rolled down the court, and the because the game has been so brutal, this last game, this third game, leather, tobacco, I don't know if coffee's in that or not. I drink coffee, so I'm a little worried it might be just in my mouth, but something similar. It's just smooth as hell right now. Definitely a different taste coming in here. We'll know in about half an inch. But the paramedics won't go on the course to pick up any bodies because the paramedics have also been hit and killed, or at least knocked out to the point. It's like 70s death. You just kind of lay down on the ground, don't get up. And every time somebody dies in the game or gets hurt, you see the scoreboard dot of their life force, which is like a series of red LEDs go ding, 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 like they die. It's a brilliant visual mechanism in this thing. But these 2 guys started ganging up on Jonathan, and what their goal is to ride the bike and use this bike that's on the ground with these bodies on the ground to use it as a ramp to jump up and nail Jonathan E. And so they're essentially driving into this fire flame to come after him, and we don't know what's going to happen. But Jonathan, it's so fucking awesome. He jumps through that flame and just takes the biker out immediately, and then he ends up getting the last dude on the team pinned on the ground. He's got the ball in his hand, and this is one of the things that they do because the ball is 30 pounds, and you pound someone's face with it, and they die, right? And again, it's not gruesome. If they filmed this film today, it would be a bloody caved-in face, like Walking Dead or something. But they keep it tastefully in the back of your mind. But he rips this guy's helmet back, and he's got this thing in his hand, and the room is pin drop quiet. And he's looking at this, and he's like, this is what they want me to do. They want me to kill this guy to show the futility of individuality. But he ascends over that level. I believe he just drops. He skates around with the ball. And there's the Houston goal, and the owner, this old fat guy that's the CEO of Houston, he sits obviously right by his goal behind the plexiglass so he can see his team succeed, right? And all the major kiss-ass executives are behind him with his coach, who's his trainer, and his coach. And he skates up to the goal. There's no one else in the game. Throws it in there. Boom. It's like this crazy, beautiful sound of like this air sucking and the magnets turning on, and it just boom. And he wins. He got the top score now. I think it's 1-0, something like that. It's been so brutal. It's been a 0-0 game up to that point. I think that's the score. But regardless, he puts the one over the top that makes them win. And he's looking through the plexiglass at this fucking old man. And he just is, in his brain, his face is just like, fuck you. This is my game. Ugh. This transition is getting unique from the second. It's great. It's going to like a really high quality tobacco taste. But the game's over. But he doesn't stop. He starts skating. He's hurt. He's fucked up. I think he still has his helmet on, I believe. I think. Maybe he takes his helmet off. Shit. But he starts just skating in the upper parameter of this ring. Slowly. By himself. Now remember what the theme of this film is. The theme is to destroy individuality. To capitulate to a corporation. To lose our humanity. To lose our freedom of thought. Our discernible ability to think. And here's Jonathan keeping his ethics, keeping his morals, keeping his individuality. And he starts skating. And it's not uncommon for the team to yell his name throughout a game. But they all start whispering, Jonathan, Jonathan. And it starts getting louder and louder. And he just starts skating. And his coach, his trainer, excuse me. His trainer and the coach. One guy, his trainer's a black guy and his coach is a white guy. And of course, his trainer's for him 100%. They start screaming his name louder and louder and louder. And the coach who told him, can't you just do what you're told? He screams his name. He's converted. This is a moment where all of humanity, right? This is a championship game. This is being broadcast worldwide, right? And there's a great Burgess Meredith Twilight Zone, which I'm going to follow this up with, called Obsolete Man, which is the theme that this comes from, I think. It's at least the same exact theme. But it gets to the point where the whole fucking place is just screaming Jonathan's name. And all he's doing is he's just doing this crazy, badass skating in this, this armored outfit, right? With he has shoulder pads, not quite, it's like roller derby pads underneath a jersey. He's got leather pants on with these fucking spiked gloves with fucking, huge padded skates and shit. And the old man is the only one not screaming. He's the only one not saying the name. Even his yes men are screaming his name. The old man gets up and fucking barges out of he's pushing through the crowd to get out of there. And the last scene is just this roar getting to a point where it's insane. And the director did this unbelievable fucking shot where Jonathan comes around to the camera on the edge. I think it's right by the goal. It's just James Caan coming right at the camera, and he catches him on a downstroke of his skating, and they just freeze frame, and they play Toccata and Fugen, just like they did at the beginning of the film. Roll credits. In short, we got to be Jonathan E. in this world. We have to be Jonathan E. Fair, built from principles, built from a constitution, inalienable rights that are the republic rights that we have as human beings, not to be messed with, not to have our stuff stolen. No man can impose another rule on you, that infringes on these basic rights. We're not going to say you have the right to kill anybody. It's Magna Carta that fed the Constitution. Europe knows this DNA. America knows this DNA. And quite frankly, all humanity knows this DNA. And Jonathan, at the very end, reached into everybody's fucking DNA and yanked this out and said, look, this is what you are. And I've shown you by example what we are. And you need to be this. And that's how the film ends. So go see Rollerball. Buy it. Don't rent it. Buy it. Watch it once a year. Fucking show every one of your friends this film. Especially your badass guys who love sports. Make sure that as they're enjoying sports, which is nothing wrong with that they understand what its purpose is. And, again, I said, before I go into the Twilight Zone thing, I said that we don't really have that quite finished theme in our sports because we have celebrities, right? What celebrity can you name in sports that hasn't suffered a paparazzi annihilation after being famous? Right? It's either they're pushed into obscurity or they, so Michael Jordan's parents were murdered. His father was murdered, We have guys getting so hooked on drugs. I forgot this last guy that just was at a brothel, and he took so many drugs he had 10 strokes that night, and now they think he's going to be in a coma the rest of his life. Magic Johnson caught AIDS, supposedly, although he can't register it in his body, but he's really quiet now. He's like a little businessman off to the side. Or they become the sports announcers to feed the system, right? So everyone gets caught by the short hairs in this system. And Jonathan punched through, which is cool. So that's just you've got a prediction of corporatism and where the world might end up heading, where nations are gone, corporations are there, information being hoarded in computers, where the 12th century can be lost and where no one can find out what's going on, where history is paraphrased by the corporation to sanitize it against exposure for violating these inalienable rights. The movie is utterly cram-packed, full of lessons, full of morals. The guy that got so involved with his job, Jonathan E., that he lost his love of his life. He thought his wife was taken by an executive. Now, she went and married an executive because she wanted that lifestyle. She wasn't going to go off to another rollerball to experience another loss of life because the guy's prioritizing a game over their life, over her life. And so it's an heirloom to humanity, this movie, in my opinion. I'm going to review other films during this process, but I'll tell you that one is one I wanted to kick it off with because for me, pound for pound, it is one of the most profoundly accurate, intelligent films you'll ever watch that addresses our current situation in the world. So let's talk about Obsolete Man. Now, if anyone has a Netflix account, the kind that you can just dial in on your Apple TV or through some box hooked to your television where you can just stream it down. Go up to the Twilight Zones, and I can't remember what season it is, but just thumb through until you can see Obsolete Man. I think it's towards the latter seasons. And again, season 4 is missing on Netflix. I just got out my DVDs because I bought I think it's 48 DVDs, or 43 DVDs I think I bought, which is the whole set. And I have the 4th season sprinkled into these DVDs. And the 4th season is a bunch of hour-long episodes, and I do not know why. I've said this a couple times. I don't know why the family hasn't released it, or the CBS, which I think owns it now, hasn't released it. But there's nothing, there's nothing of any profound level hidden in season 4. So you're not really missing anything other than great episodes of Twilight Zone, which are an hour long. And those hour-long ones, just to put a footnote on it, they've really done a lot of extended long shots that just make it longer. So if someone's running out to a car, they'll really show all of the getting into the car, fumbling for the keys, driving off, so they create these really extended scenes just to hit the 1 hour mark a lot of times. But Obsolete Man is the same theme. There's a future dystopian world, socialistic fascist world, where I forget what they call it. It's not the system, I don't think, but essentially, the world is run by a bunch of executive sort of corporate bylaws, and it's not the slightest bit related to your inalienable rights as a human being. But Burgess Meredith, and my footnote about Burgess Meredith is that if you want to watch the finest Twilight Zones in the world, and one of them is stuck in this 4th season, where he plays an editor for a newspaper, let's just say, and a typesetter. If you want to watch the finest Twilight Zones, you watch all the Burgess Meredith ones. Just use Wikipedia to figure out which ones are the ones with Burgess Meredith in it, and make sure you hit those for sure. Front to back. Watch all of them. The normal episodes are like 25 minutes long, and the 1 hour ones are like 48 minutes or something like that, for the commercials that were inserted in at some point, and they've been since removed. But Burgess Meredith is pulled into this courtroom, which is this really minimalistic, sort of futuristic fascist world with a big podium that goes up, 15 feet or something like that. And there's this jerk-off sitting at the top. And they're evaluating Burgess's value to society because he's gotten into trouble. And why is he in trouble? Oddly enough, remember Rollerball, this guy's a librarian who believes in books. Believes in the past. He believes in God. He believes in the Bible. Freedom of religion, right? Something that's fairly important to most people's psyche. Whether or not you believe or not believe in something, you have the right to have that belief. But in this futuristic world, there is no God. There is no anything you're not allowed to believe. But they sentence him to death because they can't find any other job that he wants to do. Doesn't have any other commercial skills. That again, under socialism, serves the greater good as according to these rules. So what Burgess does, which is very similar to Rollerball, is that he says, okay, I get to pick how I die, right? Yeah, and I get to pick the person who kills me, right? Because that's the rules. He's like, yes, absolutely. And we'll make sure it's quick and painless and all this other stuff. You can pick whatever you want. All right. So he says, I'll let you know. I think the way I'm going to die. And he ends up picking a bomb. He says, I'm going to die of a bomb in my home. It's like, okay. And so he then picks the dude at the podium, the guy in charge, sort of the president that's in front of this capstone organization that's running this futuristic world. And so, sure enough, the guy shows up to his house, which is this quaint little home with books, The guy's, obviously high and mighty, the other dude, because he follows all the rules, right? He's a left-brainer. He's a Prussian education system drone. And if you don't know anything about Prussian education, it's all about the idea that you kill the right side of the mind and you exacerbate the left side of the mind. Left side is all rule-based. That's why we're right-handed, because it exacerbates the left. You're demonized if you have a left-handed thing because it makes your right brain grow. Drugs like LSD, which do nothing to the body whatsoever, are demonized like you're going to die or end up in a trip for the rest of your life. It's not true. It's completely bullshit. Anybody you've ever heard who took an LSD trip and never came back, they were on a bunch of other shit. Trust me. Not that you can't have a bad trip, but it's not going to kill you. There's no physical ramification to you besides psychological. And again, I don't know anybody who's actually knows anyone who's actually been sent to a funny farm that wasn't on some other stuff, right? All right. So the guy shows up to his house and he says, and it's being videotaped, right? So he wants the whole thing broadcast. He says, no problem. They've had a camera installed in his wall in his apartment. And every moment, once this guy enters his apartment, it's being broadcast to the entire world. Sounds like that last game with Houston against New York, right? It's a championship game. The whole world's watching. And in this futuristic dystopian world, everybody who hates their life loves to see someone else punished. Well, there's your TMZ. Your paparazzi feeds people who self-loathe their life. They like to see celebrities go down. They celebrate when Charlie Sheen comes up with AIDS. They celebrate when someone dies in a car accident. They celebrate when someone gets fired. They celebrate anyone else's loss. That's sort of the way the world is. When someone watches a reality show, they're really basking in someone else's failure. Because in their own life, you'll find the people that are addicted to those shows don't like their lives. Now, Rollerball, it's a little more pure. It's more like it's a form of entertainment. But Burgess says, look, I believe in God. And he opens up the Bible and he starts sort of reading out it. And he goes, I believe in God, Bob. I believe in God. I'm going to sit over here and read my Bible until this bomb goes off. And he goes, by the way, I've locked the door and you can't get out. And the guy is like, what? And he goes over to the door and tries to get out. And because this guy has no faith in anything, not even our, like I said in the time travel one, any type of symbiotic relationship with the human body, right? I believe that as soon as my mortal coil dies, my energy force goes back out to the universe and we'll see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen. I've got some evidence in my God episode that something does happen, right? But he freaks out. He begs to be let out of the room. And Burgess is cool as a cucumber, man. And he's reading from his Bible and he looks up to him and he goes, you're fearful because you don't believe in anything. You've allowed this system to completely make you void of any beliefs, right? So he says, okay, I'll let you out. But meanwhile, this whole collapse of this head guy, fearing for his life and begging for release from a guy who's being killed, gets him in trouble. And so sure enough, the guy gets the door unlocked, runs out the hallway far enough away that when the bomb goes off and kills Burgess, Meredith, his character, I forgot what his name is in the episode, shame on me, but he He tries to go back to work, and there's someone else at the podium. This is the guy who's at the podium most of the time, and he goes back to work, and there's someone else there. And the whole process restarts for that guy. And he's like, I serve the system. I completely obey all the rules. What are you talking about? I'm obsolete now. And he goes, essentially, you showed the futility of our system, that it leaves you weak. And when everyone watched that on TV, as I'm paraphrasing the subtext of what the theme is, when everyone watched you on TV running from this old man, begging this sinner in the eyes of the socialistic world that they're in, when you begged him for help, you revealed the weakness of our system, the utter incongruent collection of rules against humanity, these inalienable rights of the Republic. Right? So you must die now. And so I forgot exactly the last scene, exactly how they button it up, but this guy's going to die. His people are going to kill him because he revealed the system for what it was. Now I'm going to go down on the nub on this thing. This is now just it's starting to get really hot here, so I probably got about a quarter inch. But before I go, while we're on the subject, and for our European friends, I hope this is good for you too. I thought about this yesterday. I thought about doing a whole episode on this, but I don't think I can fill up even 10 minutes on it because I don't think it needs it. So I'm going to use the last quarter inch on this to punch through. This is a beautiful cigar, by the way. 95 at least for me. America is an idea. That's all America is. And we have this theme going on in the world, especially within America, as they try to start sort of a civil war mentality. People are stepping on the American flag and what have you. America is a perfect thing because it's an idea of freedom. And to our European friends who hear that, and you may roll your eyes, the idea is to say, you're a bunch of bullies. You're policing the world and doing horrible things. That's not America doing that. America doesn't have that in her idea strand. Those are individuals who live in the land that is trying to keep the American experiment alive, doing things around the world that you don't like. But let's make sure that you understand that America, the idea of America, is merely the extension of Magna Carta over to our Constitution that became the idea that is America. So what I think, and this is going to sound preferential to us, but you could frame this however you want with whatever words you want. You could say Magna Carta instead of America. Okay. Man can never look masculine trying to smoke the last quarter inch of a cigar. I'm going to take one more puff, and this will be it. And I have to say goodbye. Oh, it's too hard. It's too hot to hold with my hands. I haven't done the toothpick thing yet. I'm going to try that sometime. You can burn your mouth if you're not careful. We need the idea of America to spread all over the world. And again, unfortunately, it's been co-opted by all the dastardly deeds of people that are Americans, supposedly. Again, it's almost one of these things of if you don't behave like an American, you can't call yourself an American. If you don't hold up the ideals of this beautiful set of inalienable rights, you can't really be an American or can't call yourself one. And maybe we always are aspiring Americans. We never can quite hit that perfectness that the idea tries to uphold. Because we all have like recessed racism in us, right? We're all cleansing ourselves of our bigotry. And this is just going to be a process forever, But I really think that as we live our lives day to day, we have to preserve the inalienable rights of man and get out of this idea that organizations that get diluted and crazy and create pseudoscience and say that the world's getting a certain way that's not really happening, that we don't let the lunacy of groupthink and mob rules to destroy this great idea that is America. And again, Europeans, just say Magna Carta. You guys invented this whole thing. And obviously I'm of European blood, but my family's been in this country for almost 400 years now. So Jonathan E. is about And the Rollerball is about preserving this rudimentary theme of the inalienable rights of man, the individual, and hopefully upheld by the principles that is the idea that is America. So if anybody has a problem supporting our troops, for instance, the troops are going in usually to protect the idea of America. And if a soldier or a troop ever goes off and does something against that principle, it's just because they've been manipulated by someone who's not living for that principle. Or they've been sold a bill of goods that they have to break the rules to keep up the rules, and there's no way to do that. Now, we have people that aren't American. We have people that are living in the Stone Ages, and they believe everything against those sets of rules. And so there may need to be a battle, and we'll see who wins, right? Those of us who recognize individuality will most likely, like Jonathan E., win in the end of the day. And maybe there's only one guy left at the end of the day when this battle royale occurs. I don't mean to feed this idea that we have to have a world war to pull this off, but unfortunately, society hasn't demonstrated any other ability or understanding to keep these rules alive, right? But if you think the world's complicated and dark, push that aside for a second in your mind. Let's go for a really positive button on the end of this. Let's all just be Americans or Magna Cartans. Let's all just live for man's sovereign rights to be unmessed with. Common law. Common law is beautiful. It's like 3 or 4 rules of common law, and that's it. Most of it's just leave me alone. I don't have the right to mess with you, and you don't have the right to mess with me. I don't have the right to kill anybody, unless it's in defense of myself. Probably defense of these rules, because if someone is trying to hurt you and you defend yourself and they happen to die in the process, well, obviously that person wasn't following common law, wasn't following the Magna Carta basics of life. They weren't following the American dream. The American dream is slightly different. The American dream is the symptom to the cause, right? It is you get the dream if you can maintain these sovereign rules for mankind. But we're being convinced to sacrifice all this in the name of somehow some affirmative action or some socialistic thing. In America right now, it's splitting down the middle. You've got Hillary warming up to socialism. Bernie Sanders is nothing more than a huge socialistic machine because he's old. He's going to die. He doesn't care what he does. Neither does Hillary. You listen to Donald Trump, and I'm not endorsing the guy necessarily, but he is much more close to the American principles, the Magna Carta principles of simply protecting what we have, this dream. It was an infinitely improbable situation that man actually accomplished creating this country in the first place. And we had all these immigrants come over from Europe to form this place, and then we've now had immigrants from all over the place, in India and China and South America, what have you. And the one thing that binds us together is the idea that they want freedom. Freedom to have kids, freedom to do things. And we have to limit some of this stuff, but if the whole world behaved like this, it'd be an amazing place. So that's where I'll end it. So this is the review for the Liga Privada number 9 from Drew Estate. So anyway, if you made it this far, thanks for listening. I'm going to see if this takes off. If it does, let me know. Obviously, we're going to get very few viewers on this particular one, but let me know if you like the format, if it's cool. If you have any other ideas for films that are profound like this, throw them at me. If I've seen them, I'll get to those first, of course, because I'll know them very well. But again, get yourself a copy of Rollerball 1975. Watch it carefully. Watch it again and then again until you get choked up at the end, until you get this goosebumps rolling over your body when they roll the credits at the last second. Yeah, baby. All right. Take care of yourself and somebody else, and I'll see you in the next episode. Over and out.